What is up? Welcome back to the Next Level podcast. Do we say loan officer still, or we dropped that, right? Well, I
I
think
mean, I feel like you started high and then it went down. It did go
we
down a
did.
notch.
Yeah.
It went
So,
down. Yeah.
guys, we're excited. If you haven't been living under a rock, you may have seen us last week. We announced our new partnership. Myself and Landon coming into the fold of Next Level, and we're so honored to be here. We're excited to be a part of this podcast. And today, guys, I want to, this isn't the sexiest topic in the world, but it is the one topic that can absolutely make or break everything we do in our companies. And it is hiring. It means, do we wait too long to hire and we miss on opportunity? Do we hire too fast without correctly looking at the person and assessing the gifts and abilities? There's just so many questions around hiring. And so, Sean, why don't we start? Like, you're working on a brand new hire right now in your mortgage company. And so kind of talk us through, like, how do you even get into that conversation of, am I ready to hire somebody? Do I have the money to be able to pay somebody? Like, what does that look like?
It's been something that I've been asking myself for quite a few months. And what you come to find out is once you ask yourself that question over and over again, you've already, the answer. And it's kind of like, really, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
And so fortunately, I'm in a great position. I'm one of 3 mortgage companies on the planet who's hiring operations people right now. And I've got a lot of really great operations people to choose from out there. Typically when you're hiring an ops person, you're hiring somebody's leftovers. I hate to say, but like right now, like there's a lot of amazing people, like absolute top-notch people that are available for hire, that just due to volume being cut by more than half, they're there. And so as I go through that process, so one thing I believe, and I think we'll probably talk about the DISC profile here in a little bit, but it's something that I use really to measure everybody by. But as I'm looking at this person, so, I'm hiring a loan partner. For those of you that don't have an idea what a loan partner is, they do everything a loan officer does, except they don't get the business, but they help once all of the business comes in the door. And as I keep asking myself, hey, do I need a loan partner? Do I not need a loan partner? When everything moves quick, when I message Landon and I give him my email and say, hey, here's all the things we need, here's how you apply, and he applies quick, like my team is crushing it. Where I am failing, closing 6 or 7 loans a month, which is nothing to write home about, but hey, it's pretty darn good in this market. Where I'm failing at is when I send him that email and there's not a reply right away, because, I have Next Level. I have Better Rate Mortgage. I have my rental properties. I have a co-working space. I have a lot of stuff. I'm spread, not thin, but I'm spread. And so I need people to help me run all of these things right now. And so as I look back in my standard emails of, hey, here's what goes out there, there's people that just haven't responded to us. Some of them are going to never respond. That always happens. But as I look at it, gosh, if I get 2 more deals a month, which there's 2 more deals inside of what I'm sending out, like, I'm going to pay for this person. The investment that I make, that's where people really need to look at how they do things. Is it an expense or is it an investment? The investment that I'm going to make in this person is going to quickly pay for themselves, which frees up more of my time, which allows me to just do the couple things with the borrowers that I'm really good at that make them love me, but allows me to do the other things with realtors that have grown my business from no loans a month to now 6 or 7 loans a month on a very steady basis. That's probably pretty easy to double for me in the next few months let's train them for a couple months. The next few months after that, once I get those things off my plate.
Yeah. So I want to open this question up to everybody based off, Sean, what you just said. You mentioned that there's a ton of ops people available, right? Because of where the market's at.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity is there to go find someone who is already established, who has done this for a long time. Do you guys have a preference in hiring someone that may have tenure, but they also have bad habits that come with that skill set, or hiring someone who is green and completely moldable, but they don't have the the knowledge coming in that other people may have? Do y'all prefer to hire one way or the other?
I mean, for me personally, I almost have to put a bookmark on that question and go back to, like, for me, the first thing is, when do you need to hire? And to really be able to identify when you need to hire, then it's who do you need to hire, right? Yeah. And the who is before you get to experienced. This is something that I'm gonna lean in on you on this, Kyle. You have to go who, US based or non-US based. Sure. Then you have to go US based experienced versus US based non-experienced, right? So for me, I would start with, I'm going to reference two books in this podcast a lot. One is Run Like Clockwork. And there's a methodology in that book that I absolutely love. And so when Sean, unbeknownst to Sean, he did this probably, maybe this was intentional, but you have to go through an exercise as you're looking at your time and how much do I have? How much do I not have? Where do I want to be every day? What do I want to do? What are your ultimate goals? And for me, like my ultimate goals, I want to be spending my afternoons with my daughter. So if that's my goal, then I have to say, okay, how much do I have going on my day? And you use an exercise called trim, transfer, and trash. Trim, what are things that I'm doing that I could be more efficient with? I maybe it's like, for example, I'm editing video manually, but I could pay to have somebody edit video. I'm not removing that task. I'm not getting rid of it. I'm doing it more efficiently, right? Or I'm using an AI tool. Transfer is, what are things that need to get done? And this goes right back to what Sean said. These things need to get done. Like when a lead comes in and we're so excited to meet you, and then we do no follow-up, we need to transfer that to someone, something, or a combination of both. The last is trash. What are the things that I'm currently doing that are adding nothing to my business, nothing to my bottom line, and is not helping me get closer to achieving my goal of afternoons with my daughter, right? So then once I've done that, I go, okay, cool. I've got 3 lists, things I need to do more effectively, things I need somebody else to do more effectively, and things that no one needs to do. Then I go and I say, cool. Are the things that need to get transferred, do those things, are they best done by somebody based in the US locally, in the US nationwide? Like, does Sean need somebody at his desk taking in paperwork as people knock on his door? Or can they be in West Virginia? And then do they need to be experienced, or can they be a rookie? And then you go to, or is it a VA in the Philippines? South Africa is a big place now where people are getting VAs. And so, like, I didn't answer your question totally.
No, it's good.
But that's what I'm looking at as I'm doing this. And so, like, I went kind of, and this is why I love these calls. Sean's hiring a US-based staff member, probably with experience, because that role, you can get experience low cost right now, relatively speaking. And that's a caution to the audience. Like, don't think you have to overpay or pay what you paid 2 years ago for the same staff member today. That is not the case, right? That is not the case. 2 is, today versus 2 years ago, the type and quality of staff you can get that do not live or work in this country is considerably better. And there are companies that can support you in that. Like, so I went the other extreme. I got rid of all of my US-based staff. I went from a team of 35 with 60% operational staff to a team of 1, that staff member being remote, and remote being in the Philippines right now. Right. I did take on more work, but I went through the exercise of trim, transfer, trash. I got more focused on, what do I need to do? What are the things I can have my loan officers do because they're getting paid more, right? So I just got really honest about what I intended and designed my company to be, to function as, what people can expect from it. And that allowed me to make the decision on going with remote staff.
You know, the other thing that I've gone through a lot is I have underwriters that were making well north of 6 figures a few years ago, begging me for a job, and understanding that the pay is nowhere near that. But I'm like, hey, listen, I'm sorry, I can't hire you. You're too overqualified. And when the market turns, I can't prevent you. I don't want to stop you from getting a new job. And, you know, people are desperate for work. And some of them are like, well, I'll take it and I'm loyal and I'll never leave. And I'm like, I'm sorry, if somebody pays you 2.5 times what this job position pays, there's no way you're not going to leave. And then, you know, Shay and I have people that are like, well, you know, here's what I was making 8 months ago when I was laid off. This is really kind of where I need to be. And then I have other people who are like, hey, here's where I'm at. Here is what I need to live right now. And I'm willing to grow. And it's just, So as I look at those things, also, by the way, if you're an ops person, you're listening to this, I intentionally called 6 people on Saturday of this weekend because I wanted to see if they would pick up their phone and answer, because it's still an important thing in my world. And one person did.
Wow.
Also the person who's actually most flexible and willing to grow with.
Yeah. So part of this whole conversation is, as the person doing the hiring or needing the staff member, you have to reset your expectations from where they were 12 to 24 months ago completely. Because what you need, if it's non-operational, non-licensed activities, compliance activities. Now, there are offshore people that do those things, but like, unless you've managed that team, that's probably not a good first offshore hire, because there's a lot more financial risk involved if they make an error on a loan versus marketing admin. Like, so my admin does social media, Chat GPT. She's managing my day-to-day, my digital platform. She's building graphics and PDFs, and she actually does do payroll, and she works in QuickBooks, but she works with a bookkeeper who's based in the US, right? So I think that what Sean is needing is an operational person that has experience in the industry. And you asked originally, like, experience versus non-experienced. I would always, like, the only reason you would hire inexperienced people over experienced people is if there were no good experienced people available, from my perspective, right? Because unless you, like, your number one goal is not to be off at 3 o'clock, spend time with your daughter, but it's to develop and train people from the ground up, like that could be a vision. And I know some great broker owners and coaches and retail regionals, that's their passion. Outside of that being your passion, there are enough people with experience right now, good, hardworking, honest people of integrity out there. But to Sean's point, I posted an ad for an insurance agent. I had an insurance company. And at the bottom of the ad, it said, hey, do the following. And I just gave him a very simple, like, send me an email explaining why this would be a good fit for you. I had 75 people apply. I had one person actually respond accordingly. One. So I would say it's still extremely hard to find good people, even though there's a lot more good people sitting on the sidelines. I think they're having to reset how they apply. Like, don't use LinkedIn's automated resume builder. Like, don't do that. You know, like, build a real resume. Go back to doing things the right way.
Well, let's dig into, because what I've seen is that people are learning to interview really well, but then they suck once they actually get into the job. And so can we talk for a minute about, like, do you guys have any tricks or certain questions that you ask in the interview process? Like, you know, Shane, you just mentioned you put it in the ad, right? When we are hiring VAs overseas, we make them send a video.
Yeah.
So just like you said, we'll get 100 applications, but 3 of them actually sent us a video. I don't even look at the other 97.
Yep.
You know, so do you guys have any? I have a really silly one that I'll save for the end, so we can actually do serious things first. What do you do in your interview process that kind of, you know, gets the bad people out?
So when I was running offices across the country, I had actually a video in all of my ads when I was hiring underwriters and closers and processors and needed a steady supply of people. And I had a video that I asked them to watch inside of my advertisement. And in the video, it said, hey, by the way, email me and tell me the color shirt I was wearing. I think I had a purple shirt on in the video. Mm-hmm. And because for any of those people that I described, they're detail-oriented people. And so if they couldn't follow the instruction, and it was like a 90-second video, so I wasn't making them sit through
or they just told you they watched it and you know that they didn't.
Yeah. So that was something that I often did with this hire for me particularly. It's been pretty organic because I know that there's so many people looking for a job that, you know, that old Facebook, I was able to really leverage that to get a lot of good referrals to come in the door. Now, again, I will have all of my final candidates do a disc test for me.
I think what Sean just described, Sean had an intention of finding somebody who had an attribute, which was critical thinking, attention to detail.
Yeah.
And so I think what you need to do if you're on this and now I was a terrible hiring manager. I didn't hire the right things. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't vet it effectively. And I ended up getting people that were not good fits. So as I learned through that, what I realized is I had some items that I need, some attributes I need my employee to have. One is they have to operate with agency. And for me, that's somebody who is very much somebody who, like, I'm going to figure it out. And even if I get it wrong, I'm going to bring that to Shane. Like, they're passionate about trying things. So it's that inquisitive mind. So then if that's an attribute, is there a question, an exercise, or something you can do to try to bring that out before you bring them on board? Now, some of these things, the interview process doesn't end when you hire somebody, in my opinion. My interview process went on for 30 days after that, because some of this is like, all right, I'm going to give them things week one. How much agency do they operate with week one? Then do they accept my feedback? That's another attribute. Are you open to feedback or even criticism? Like, if you can't take, and there's like, you can't even say criticism anymore because it offends too many people, but I say it, like, because again, like, I was a fireman. We've all seen, like, the best athletes. They take criticism from their coaches, but they don't see it as criticism. It's coaching. So are you open to taking coaching? So that's something, but I think something else that's important is I never offer my job at the high end of the financial, like, level for that job. So if, like, for instance, I'm hiring an admin, and in my market, a general admin might make 50 grand. Like, at the high end, I'm going to offer 45, because one of the key attributes I want in somebody is somebody whose priority first isn't the financial like piece. Now they're going to be like, it's got to be fair, because again, I expect to make good money, but like, I am far more incentivized by being a part of something and then making good money. But if I make great money and I'm not a part of something, I'm out. And so I need my people to mimic me in that regard, because if you're operating with agency, which means you're operating like an owner, but you operate completely different than I would as an owner, it's not going to work. So again, a long way to answer your question. I'm going to ask them things like if you were given Kyle, I'm just going to give you a task. And like, when we're done with this interview, and if you could just work on it for 5 minutes and then send me back like your response, like, that would help me close out this interview. And it's going to be something that I know they're not going to have any experience in. I just want to see what they do. Yeah. Do they say, I don't know, and they just ask a bunch of questions, or do they try? And I say fail valiantly. Like, if they fail valiantly, you're my guy or you're my gal. That's one of the key attributes I'm looking for in a staff member.
So good. I love that.
There's also a couple books that we can share, Shane. I mean, one that we've talked about for a long time. Is The Ideal Team Player.
Phenomenal book. Patrick
Lencioni. And then something else I asked, like, one of the people that I talked to has attributes that they don't have it yet, but that they have the ability to be a good salesperson, the way they talk, the way and a loan partner should have those attributes. And so there's another book, like The Dan Sullivan Question. And so that is something else that I like to layer inside when I'm asking where people see themselves, and not only where they see themselves in their career, but with who at that time, because that's something else that helps me understand who they are. And it's an easy question for somebody to be like, oh yeah, and I'm going to go do this on my own. Or yeah, no, man, I got this, want this cush salary job. And then, I got this other buddy that owns a mortgage company. I'm going to go over there to do that. And so you very quickly figure out people with, not even, they just tell you who they are.
It's good.
There's two questions I like to ask, two of several, but two that stick out would be, what are you reading and what do you value? I know we were just talking about books right here, and that's why I wanted to mention it, but let me be clear. You're not interested exclusively, or you're not interested in learning exclusively because you read, right? You can learn on YouTube. You can learn in all these different ways these days. I personally enjoy my learning through books and podcasts, right? And so I like to know if they're reading. Now, if they're not reading and say, I don't really read. I like to do X. It doesn't disqualify them. I'm just curious if they enjoy reading for a few of those reasons. But then what do you value? That can go super deep, from spiritual to personal to hobbies to work to money to free time. Like, those things are incredibly, incredibly important. As a matter of fact, I like to hear more so, like, what do you do in your free time? Are you willing to give yourself permission to do those things? Because we're not, I mean, not to be, vain or anything, but like, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. Like, there should be no reason that I want to just work until 11 o'clock tonight so I can make up time and get ahead of everyone. Like, literally screw that. I feel like I used to be years ago, like in a space, this was years ago, a space of like, well, if you're not working on Thanksgiving Day, I'm going to do a little bit when the kids take a nap so I can get ahead. Like, in no way have I arrived, but I've definitely pushed back on that because it's going to be there tomorrow. And so I really like to hear, like, what are they interested in doing aside from work?
I think what we're describing, which I love, is we're all kind of describing things almost probably in some way like about ourselves that we want to see emulated in our staff. I think something else that's really important is we are hiring people to do things that we either don't want to do or are not good at doing or don't have the capacity to do. So something that I don't want to not address is you do want to find somebody who is willing to do things that you aren't wanting to do. Not work Thanksgiving, but I want my staff member working past 3 o'clock so that I can not work past 3 o'clock. Right. And so I'm willing to sacrifice financially to have staff members do other things for me. And so it's like to Landon, it goes back to his point. It's what do you value? And if somebody's like, listen, I'm 24, I grew up poor. I've always wanted to buy a home. Their motivation is very different from Landon's. It's not right or wrong. It's their motivations. It's what they value. But if you don't know what you value, that's a problem, right? And so it's not that they have to do the same thing as us or talk like us. They have to be clear at who they are, because I've found that the worst hires I've made are the people that don't know who they are. And so they're easily pushed around. It's extremely insecure. And so when you give them feedback or coaching, they always take it wrong. They stir the pot. And I would just say, just my last piece is I like to ask questions that are getting to the point without getting to the point. So a question I'll use, if I want to know what people are into. Now I live in Washington State, which is extremely polarizing. 50% love guns, 50% hate you if you love guns, right? It's very polarizing. So a question I'll ask to not offend people is, if I gave you $1,000 today and you had to donate that, you couldn't keep that money, you had to donate that money, what would you donate to? And it's not right or wrong, but if they say, I would donate that to the Greenpeace, that tells me something about this person without them having to say, I'm an extreme environmentalist, right?
Yeah.
And so I like to use questions like that. And then I'll be like, well, tell me more, why Greenpeace? Then you find out my dad worked for Greenpeace. Now you start to get into their values. And so the question isn't really the question. It's the start of you getting to 3 other questions. They're going to really get to the point of what do they value? What do they care about? What are they willing to do? And how does that fit into the trim, transfer, trash? How does that fit into my goals, long-term and short-term? And some of those other key things.
I love it. Are y'all ready for my weird question that I ask?
Yes.
So I don't know how many times I've asked this, probably more than I should have, but I love to ask people, how far do they think they could drag a dead body?
I love that. How far have you dragged a dead body? That's the real question.
And what I'm looking for, well, it depends on the size of the person, right? But so what I'm looking for obviously is not a correct answer. There's not a correct answer to that question. But my whole reason for that is I'm playful. My culture is playful. We have fun. And so I've had several people in the past that instantly were weirded out by that, had no sense of humor whatsoever. And I'm like, nope, you are not hired, because I can't, that person is going to get easily offended by me when I, am sarcastic. But then I've had people that are like, can I cut the body up first? How, and I'm like, yes, my guy, you get my humor. And so, don't be afraid to throw a question in that is just meant to kind of be silly and fun if you want that type of environment for people to be working in.
What I love about this question, actually, it's not so much the question. It could be any question. It's the fact that you're willing to say no. Like, I don't need to give you another chance. We don't need to go around the block again. Like, you're just not for me. And of course, Kyle, we know you. You're very comfortable in your own skin. But I think for those listening, it's okay to say no. And it's okay to say no quickly.
Yeah.
And it's really okay to align with people you feel like you're going to align with sooner rather than later, because there is nothing more painful than hiring the person that made sense on paper and interviewed good enough. And she kind of didn't like the question at the end, but for me, it's kind of a hiring metric. But you went ahead and went with them. Like, that's just going to suck for however long you keep them on. And I think that's really important to know and to learn up front. Like, it's okay to have your own qualifications. You are the one hiring.
100%. My final thought on all this would just be to always be looking. That doesn't mean you're setting up Indeed, profiles, but just always have your head on a swivel when you're networking, when you're out and about. Like, there's always somebody that could add immense value to what you're doing. And it may come from the most, the weirdest source ever. And so I would just stay open to it. And we could go on and on, guys. We didn't even get into the different assessments that are available. Like, I think we all kind of like different ones. And so we'll do a future episode where we kind of dig into some of these different assessments, because there's so much value in creating a common language inside of your company. And to me, an assessment is the best way to do that. And so coming soon, an episode about assessments. Guys, thanks for listening to the Next Level Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.